You are tired in a way you cannot explain to anyone. Not sick, not lazy, not ungrateful, just tired. The kind of tired that sits inside your chest before you open your eyes in the morning, before the day has even asked anything of you, before the phone, before the people, before the list of things that still need doing. You are carrying something. You have been carrying it for a long time, and what makes it worse, you're not even sure what it is anymore. It started as something specific, a relationship, a loss, a season that went on too long, a version of yourself you kept trying to maintain. But somewhere along the way, the weight became part of you, so familiar that you stopped questioning it. You just carried it, every day, without complaint, without asking whether you were supposed to. Because that is what you do. You hold things together, you stay faithful, you keep showing up even when showing up costs you something real. You pray even when the words feel thin. You forgive even when the wound is still fresh. You choose hope even when the evidence does not cooperate. And nobody sees that. Nobody sees the quiet effort it takes to keep believing when nothing is moving. Nobody sees what it costs to stay soft in situations that taught you to protect yourself. Nobody counts the number of times you chose patience when anger would have been easier. Nobody measures the weight of staying open when closing would have been safer. You carry it silently, and silence has a cost. Here is what nobody tells you about faithful endurance. It has a limit, not a failure, not a collapse, not a sign that something is wrong with you spiritually, just a limit. The same way a body has a limit, the same way any structure has a limit when the weight exceeds what it was built to hold. You have reached yours, and reaching it does not feel like what you expected. You expected a moment of crisis, a loud breaking point you could point to and name. Instead, it is quieter than that, more confusing than that. It feels like distance. Like the prayers you have always prayed now land in a room that feels slightly empty. Like the promises that once warmed you now feel like words on a page. Like the version of yourself you have always been. The one who trusts, who endures, who holds on, is still there, but running on something that is almost gone. You tell yourself others have it worse. You remind yourself of everything you have been given. You push the feeling down and call it ingratitude, but it comes back. It always comes back, because it is not ingratitude. It is not weakness. It is not a sign that your faith is failing. It is exhaustion from carrying what you were never supposed to carry alone, for this long, without rest, without being held in return. Your heart is not cold, it is worn. There is a difference. A cold heart does not ache. A worn heart aches precisely because it still cares, precisely because it has not stopped, precisely because it kept choosing faith long after faith stopped feeling like a reward and started feeling like work. You are not losing your belief. You are feeling the weight of it. The old ways of getting through this are not working. You know this because you have tried them. You have prayed harder. Nothing shifted. You have filled your schedule so the silence cannot catch you. It caught you anyway. You have read the right verses, listened to the right words, told yourself the right things, and for a while it worked. An hour, maybe a day. And then the heaviness returned, heavier than before, as if it had been waiting patiently for you to finish. You have tried to perform your way back to okay, and you are exhausted from the performance. There is a specific kind of pain in this moment that is different from ordinary suffering. Ordinary suffering has a target. You know what hurts and why. You can work with it. You can pray through it. You can endure it because it has a shape. This is different. This is the pain of realizing that everything you have been using to hold yourself together is no longer holding. Not because it was wrong, not because you failed, but because it was built for a version of your life that is no longer the version you are living. The structures that once gave you stability, the certainty, the clarity, the feeling that you understood where God was in all of this, have quietly loosened their grip, and you are standing in what remains, which feels like very little. This is the moment most people misread as the end of something. It is not the end of something. It is the beginning of something that cannot begin any other way. What God is doing right now, the removing, the loosening, the quiet stripping away of what you have been leaning on, is not punishment. It is not abandonment. It is not a sign that He has forgotten where you are or what you have sacrificed to stay faithful. It is preparation, and preparation never feels the way we want it to feel. There are things in your life right now that are being removed. Some of them you already know about. Relationships that ran out of honesty a long time before they ended. Versions of yourself you maintained for other people's comfort, not your own. Certainties you held on to not because they were true, but because letting go of them felt like freefall. Roles that defined you long after they stopped fitting, and some of what is being removed you would have chosen to keep. That is the part that is hardest to sit with. That God sometimes removes things we loved, things we prayed to keep, things we genuinely believed were good for us, things we cannot explain the loss of without sounding like we are accusing him of something. You are allowed to grieve that. You are allowed to be honest about the fact that this does not feel like mercy from the inside. The Psalms make room for this. The people who wrote them did not sanitize their pain. They brought it full and unfiltered and placed it directly in front of God without dressing it up into something more acceptable. That is not loss of faith. That is the deepest kind of faith. The kind that trusts the relationship enough to tell the truth inside it. So tell the truth, not to anyone who will judge you for it. Not to anyone who will rush to fix it or explain it or remind you of what you should be feeling instead. But quietly, honestly, in the space between you and God, tell him what this has cost. Tell him you are tired. Tell him the weight has been heavy for longer than you have admitted. And then, and this is the part that requires something from you, stop waiting for the discomfort to disappear before you trust that he is present inside it. Because he is present inside it, not despite the emptiness inside it. This is not a season of visible movement. You will not feel dramatic shifts. You will not wake up one morning with everything resolved. What is happening right now is quieter and slower and more permanent than that. The things being removed were load-bearing, not because they were right, but because you built your stability around them, and when load-bearing things are removed, the structure shakes before it settles. You are in the shaking. The settling is coming, but it will not be rushed. If you have read this far, if these words feel less like content and more like a mirror, stay. Not because this is a place with answers, it is not. Not because we will make this easier or faster, we cannot. Stay because there is something different about walking through a hard season knowing that others are walking through theirs honestly. Not performing recovery, not pretending the weight is lighter than it is. Just walking. Together. With honesty. If that is what you need right now, join us. Come back. You do not have to carry this in silence. At some point, as without announcement, without drama, something shifts. Not relief. Something quieter and more permanent than relief. A sense that the ground beneath you is different than it was before. Not softer, actually harder, in the way that foundations are hard. More real, more yours. You will notice it in small things first. The way you make a decision and do not immediately second guess it. The way you step back from something that would have pulled you under before. The way you sit in a hard conversation and do not collapse into the need to be understood. The way you pray and do not need to feel the prayer landing to keep praying. Something has changed in how you hold yourself. Not confidence in the performance sense, something deeper, a quieter knowledge that you have been through the dismantling and you are still here, still open, still choosing faith not because it feels good but because it is true. And that choice, made in the dark, made without reward, made when nobody was watching, built something in you that could not have been built any other way. This is what the removal was for, not to punish you. Not to test your limits for its own sake, but to make space for something that could not grow inside the old structure. Something that required the old certainties to loosen. Something that required the old identities to fall away. Something that could only take root after the weight you were carrying for everyone else was finally set down. You were not carrying what was yours to carry. You were carrying what you thought you had to carry in order to be loved, to be safe, to be acceptable, to be enough. And God, in his particular mercy, refused to let you keep it. Because you were never meant to earn your way into being held. You were always already held. That is the thing you could not believe before this season. Not because you did not want to, but because your hands were too full to receive it. Now they are emptier. And emptiness, when it has been grieved honestly, becomes capacity. The faith that survives this season does not look like the faith that entered it. It is quieter. It does not need to announce itself. It does not need to perform its own existence to feel real. It has been tested in a way that cannot be faked and cannot be borrowed. It is yours, specifically, earned in the particular darkness of your particular life. It will hold more than what you carried before, not because you are stronger in the way the world measures strength, because you finally know what you are actually leaning on. The things that have been taken from you, they are not coming back, not in the form they had. What grows in their place will be different. It will not make sense until it does, and when it does, you will understand why nothing before this was the foundation. This was walk in the light. even on the days it feels distant.